Good afternoon. Welcome to Kansas City Council Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. This is our first meeting of the year, so Happy New Year, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Kim, maybe have a roll call, please.
Thank you, Council President. Council President Kaur.
Here.
Councilmember Boyce. Councilmember Boyd.
Here.
Councilmember Fincher.
Here.
Councilmember Larmer.
Here.
Councilmember Michaud.
Here.
Councilmember Troutner.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Next up is agenda approval. Any changes to the agenda? None. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you so much. And we have approval of minutes from December 10, 2024. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you so much. And next, we have payment of bills, and we had a couple of emails come through, and I hope council had the chance to review those. So may I have a motion, please? For those. Okay. May I have all right. Motion and second. Any discussion? All right. Not seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Thank you so much. Okay. We have Christina Shuck with the ordinance number 4512, granting a non-exclusive franchise. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Christina Shuck, Deputy City Attorney, and I'm here this afternoon to introduce a fiber franchise agreement this time with Easy Fiber Texas. Ziply was last time I was here. So Easy Fiber Texas is a Texas company. They're working to expand throughout Washington, especially within the South Sound. And they're planning to build out a fiber optic network and provide internet service to residents, businesses. And we also understand they plan to have offices within the city of Kent. So city staff has been working with Easy over the past few months to negotiate terms of this franchise. The terms are almost identical to the previous fiber franchise that have come before you. And so specifically, this is a 10-year franchise. It's non-exclusive. It authorizes Easy to install and maintain its facilities within the right-of-way. And it governs how this deployment of the facilities work. So you'll probably remember that it requires restoration of the right-of-way, requires facilities to be moved if there's a road project, requires them to obtain permits and bonds for its work, those kind of standards provisions. So fiber franchise like this are governed by federal and state law. So federal law requires that the city treat all of these similar providers the same. That's why you see the same franchise terms over and over. State law prohibits the city from charging a franchise fee for use of its right-of-way for these types of facilities, and it also requires that franchises be heard by council twice. So what that means is tonight you will see this on the consent calendar as an introduction of the franchise, and then you'll see it again on February 4th for the actual adoption, and that's because of state law, that state law requirement. And I did think that Easy Fiber, or a representative from Easy Fiber might be here tonight, but I don't see that he made it. So with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Christina. Any questions? If none, I'll make a motion. I move to introduce ordinance number 4512 at the January 21, 2025 City Council meeting, which, if later adopted by council, will grant a non-exclusive 10-year franchise with Easy Fiber Texas LLC for the installation of a fiber optic network, subject to final franchise terms and conditions acceptable to the city attorney.
Second.
Motion and second in discussion. Right, none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Christina. All right, next up, we'll move on to ECD. Councilmember Larimer, please.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight we have one item for economic development. We have Sam Alcorn presenting on a targeted residential investment program agreement for the Sutton, and there will be action. Very excited about some new housing coming to the city. So, Sam.
Hi, good evening, council members. My name is Sam Alcorn. I'm a senior planner with Economic and Community Development. And as mentioned, I'm here to talk tonight about the multifamily tax exemption application by the Sutton Apartments. This is the Targeted Residential Investment Program in Kent City Code 3.25 and provides exemptions on the assessed value of site improvements for multifamily housing development within Kent's downtown or midway areas. And the purpose of this exemption is to attract residential growth to the downtown area and also adjacent to the new light rail station in the Midway area. And attracting growth in these two parts of town is something that is a core tenet of Kent's comprehensive plan as well as our Midway sub-area plan. This process, it's administratively reviewed by staff, but does require approval from council, and that is to authorize the mayor to sign the MFT contract with this property owner and applicant. As a quick refresher, the program was originally passed by the Washington State Legislature in 1995. Kent City Council adopted a multifamily tax exemption in 2001 that was consistent with this legislation, but this was actually later replaced with a targeted residential investment program in 2020. And updated a few of the program criteria, mostly just to not have it be blanket for the city, but to focus on downtown and Midway. And again, attracting this residential growth really is a core tenet of the comprehensive plan and our ECD plan. So some previous projects that were granted MFTE. This happened in 2017, where Madison Plaza, that's kind of on Meeker there, as well as Ethos, kind of near Meeker, and the Green River Trail. So moving on to this specific application named the Sutton, you can kind of see where the site is tucked right in there between I-5, the new link light rail tracks right behind Lowe's, and is within a quarter-mile walking distance of that light rail station, a really major transit development in the area. And they're proposing to develop a 12.69 acre property with 565 residential units and one small commercial cafe, along with 675 parking spots. And just like a quick unit breakdown, it's going to be 248 studios, 151 bedrooms, 143 two bedrooms, and 24 three bedrooms. So a fair amount of mix of unit types in there. And as you can kind of see, like a number of different amenities that are around there. These units are going to be at over 3 different building types. That big one up front that you see here is a 7-floor palladium building with 2 levels of garage with 5 levels of commercial units above that, and you can see the cafe right up front, and that's going to be facing the main street there. And then behind all that, there's 2 elevator-loaded 5-floor buildings that each are going to have 140 units, and then 6 kind of smaller 24-unit townhome-style 3-story buildings, and pretty neat, actually, 5,000 square foot clubhouse with a pool and a little exercise center. And so we'll just kind of flip through a few of these renderings. The Midway sub-area actually has its own design guidelines, and we've reviewed this and found that it's consistent with our design guidelines and really does provide some nice amenities for the residents, and is going to be, I think, really an important market rate project that's going to be adjacent to this light rail station and hopefully a catalyst for more development in the future. There are some other projects that are happening somewhat close by on Sound Transit-owned property that are going to be focused for exclusively affordable housing. And, you know, literally right next to the station is going to be, I think, about 275 unit affordable housing developed by Mercy Housing. And so this one, to me, is a unique opportunity for market rate housing. So again, I reviewed this and found it consistent with our development standards and approval criteria in our targeted residential investment program, and recommend council authorize this for the mayor to sign the MFT contract. And I'm happy to answer any questions about this development or other development happening nearby.
All right, any questions or comments for Sam? I know
Quick question, sorry. Thank you, Councilmember Larmer. Sam, do they have a date for groundbreaking and completions?
Yeah, so part of the MFT approval process is that they're required to complete it within 3 years of the approval. So right now they have their building permits well and under review, their civil permits well under review, and I think are within you know, a pretty close timeline of getting those permits issued and groundbreaking, at least on the civil construction. So like site development, sidewalks, utilities, that sort of thing happening this year, probably in the spring. And so it's definitely on the horizon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sam, can you go back to the area map that was like at the beginning? And then can you briefly talk about some of the other housing projects that are multifamily projects that are going on in this area?
So do you see the Kent Des Moines station where that arrow is? That's going to be where the station platform is. Sound Transit owns the pretty much whole 2 block, like kind of city blocks right between there and Pack Highway. And so there's going to be Mercy Housing, this is an affordable housing developer building, I want to say around 275 units on the north portion, kind of north of the station, but they also own the south station too. And so there'll be later on some more development there. On that project that, you know, I guess we're calling it TOD North right now. They're going to have a child care center. There's going to be a commercial kitchen for a local food service, as well as some commercial space. And so it's really going to, be a great development, and it's currently under review. Hopefully it's slated to start within the next year or so.
Great. Well, I just want to thank you for the presentation. This is I'm excited about this property. I love the fact that it has the studios and the 3 bedrooms as well. I think that's some market rate housing that we need in this area. So excited to see this coming forward. With that, I will read the motion. If there's no other questions, or just at this time. Okay. I move to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with STU 565 LP, granting an 8-year multifamily tax exemption for the Sutton apartment complex to be constructed in the Midway area of Kent, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Economic and Community Development Director and City Attorney.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Sam.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Larmer. Now we have Parks with Councilmember Michaud, please.
Thank you, Madam President. We also just have one item, and we are going to have Haley Elliott come up here to present for her first time, and she's going to be talking about the recreation guide.
Woohoo, first timer. Hi, guys. Good evening, Council President, Council members. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Haley Elliott, and I'm the Marketing and Engagement Coordinator for the City of Kent Parks Department, which means that my job is largely focused on the marketing and communication efforts for Kent Parks. So I'm here today to seek approval for the mayor to authorize the goods and services agreement between the City of Kent and Consolidated Press for the printing and mailing services of the Kent Parks Recreation Guides for 2025 and 2026. Earlier this month, we did select Consolidated Press through a competitive RFP process, and the contract will cover printing and mailing services for the guides produced both this year in 2025 and in 2026. And in case you have not seen our current guide, I do have a copy of our winter one that is out right now. The guides are produced quarterly, for those of you who don't know. So we do produce one for spring and summer, one for fall, and then one for winter, which means that the contract will cover printing for all 6 issues that will be produced over the next 2 years. Guides promote the seasonal program offerings and events that are coordinated by the Kent Parks Recreation Department. And then, of course, they also contain pertinent information from other divisions within parks, such as Park Planning and Development, Human Services, Riverbend Golf Complex, and Park Operations as well. So we work hand in hand with multimedia to develop these guides in-house, but while they flawlessly design them and they look beautiful, unfortunately, we cannot produce them in-house. And that is due strictly to the volume. Each guide, so we have our fall and winter guides are each 48 pages, and our spring and summer guides are 56 pages. So if each guide was to only take 1 minute to print, we do produce 82,500, which means that it would take 172 working days to produce just one quarterly run in-house. So a little bit much for us to handle in-house. So they are our largest marketing piece, and they have been over the last few decades, and they are pivotal to the success of everything that we do each season because of how much information they contain. So each quarter, the guide is mailed out to 80,000 homes, and so 78,000 of these guides are mailed to residences within the City of Kent and or Kent School District boundaries. So we do have a couple of Federal Way zip codes, as well as in Fairwood and unincorporated Kent County as well. And then 2,000 guides are mailed to other individuals who have elected to receive the guide, and those are usually in surrounding cities outside of Kent: Renton, Auburn, Tukwila, Auburn, even down to Tacoma and Olympia. And then we do produce an additional 2,500, which brings us to the total of 82,500. And those ones are distributed at our city facilities, so the Kent Commons and the Kent Senior Activity Center. So the cost and the printing, the cost of the printing and mailing for each guide are covered by my budget, and they are in the adopted 25-26 budget as well. And so while you may see that the annual cost of printing is broken down to only $86,700 for each year for each round of 3 guides, due to the continued escalation of costs, we're electing to pursue a 2-year contract, which is why I'm here today, as the 2-year does push us over those necessary thresholds. Because when signing a 2-year contract with the selected vendor, we will lock in prices for both this year and also for next year. And so it'll offset future costs and, of course, give us some long-term savings. So, any questions?
Great job.
Thank you.
Any questions for Haley? No? Okay. You did a good job anticipating questions that we may have had, I think. So good job.
Thank you.
All right, I will read the motion. I move to authorize the mayor to sign the goods and services agreement with Consolidated Press, LLC, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Parks Director and City Attorney.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Show. Thank you, Haley. And we have Public Works. Councilmember Fincher, please.
Thank you, Council President. We're going to hear from David Payne on the next 2 measures, and it is going to be to accept funds.
Good afternoon, Council President, Council members. David Payne, Public Works, Transportation City Transportation Planner, here to present on 2 grants being awarded from the Transportation Improvement Board. The last time you heard from us on these grants was in the summertime, and when we briefed to give a preview that we would be applying for the projects. Both of them are in the Transportation Master Plan, and tonight we're asking for acceptance of the two grants. So the first project, the 83rd Avenue South Sidewalk Project, roughly between 224th Street at the north and 228th at the south, would be to close a sidewalk gap on the west side of the road to complete the sidewalk network for the street. The award is for $625,000. And this was identified in the Transportation Master Plan as a project priority for our partners. And you guys see a picture in the lower left-hand corner. We're excited to see this project move, and design I believe is already partly underway, and we're looking for acceptance of the grant so we can complete construction of the project. And again, is funded in partnership with TIB. We appreciate them greatly. The second project is for 132nd Avenue Southeast. It's for a sidewalk project roughly north of Southeast 278th Place. At the bottom there, and you can see the street when it curves up, it becomes 130th Avenue. But that little segment right at the bottom is Southeast 278th Place. And so that will connect the sidewalk on 278th up to the existing sidewalk on 132nd, also closing a gap. That project, the award is for $490,000, and the project was previously designed in partnership with King County Metro. So again, we appreciate the partnerships from TIB. We just received these two grants, and we're eager to start construction on both of them. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and shortly you'll also be hearing from me to give a summary rundown of all of the grants that we received notice of in the workshop.
Thank you, Councilmember. I just want to say good job. Excited about this, especially this one. Is the sidewalk going to be separated from the road, or is it going to be next to it?
The initial design was separated from the road as our typical design section. My understanding is we're taking another look at that, given the constraints of the project funding, but that I understand it will also include some pavement work.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? It's nice to have this so that we don't have to pay for all of that. If there's nothing else, then I'm going to move to accept grant funds in the amount of $490,000 from the Transportation Improvement Board for the 132nd Avenue Southeast Pedestrian Improvement Phase 3 project, amend the budget, and authorize the expenditure of funds, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary agreements and other documents subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Public Works Director and City Attorney.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And then for the next one, I move to accept grant funds in the amount of $625,000 from the Transportation Improvement Board for the 83rd Avenue South Sidewalk Project, amend the budget, and authorize the expenditure of funds and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary agreements and other documents subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Public Works Director and City Attorney.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Transportation Improvement Board. Thank you very much. That is it, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Frencher. Thank you, David. It's always great to see those funds coming back to our community and being used here. So with that, we are at the end of our meeting. We are adjourned until 5:15. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Welcome to Kent City Council Workshop for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. This is our first workshop of the year, so welcome everyone and Happy New Year. And we have one presentation, 2024 Transportation Grant Summaries and 2025 Grant Opportunities. Welcome, David Payne.
Good evening, Council President, Council members. David Payne, City Transportation Planner. This evening we'll be presenting in two sections. The first half of the presentation will be on a summary of the 2024 transportation grants. We'll do a recap of the awards. And then the second half of the presentation will be to kick off the 2026-2031 Transportation Improvement Program. We'll talk about the schedule for the TIP update. We'll review the performance metrics. We'll see how we're doing so far. And we'll also brief on some potential 2025 grant nominations for projects that we anticipate there being grant calls within the next year. So the first half of the presentation, we'll talk about 2024 grants, what we did, how we did, and including what's next for the grant process. So the big three grants that we received, the big three grant agencies from the even year of 2024 were the Puget Sound Regional Council, the Washington State Department of Transportation, and the Transportation Improvement Board. So I say even year because in Washington State we have an even odd year cycle where even years are a larger grant year. Last year we went after, I want to say, 19 applications. And then we get a little bit of a break on the odd year so that we can do the rest of the things that we're required to do to keep up with all the project development. So this will be a slightly lighter year for grant applications, but you'll see that in what we report out. And more importantly, you'll see that next year when we come back with a slightly lower number. You will say, hey, wait, what happened last year? What are we not doing as well? It's just the nature of the cycle. So I love these slides because it gets to show a summary of all of the projects that we received grants for, and you can see the distribution of them across the city. I'd like to say that we're lighting up the city with funding, external funding to bring these projects to implementation. So I'll review 8 of the applications that we received or that we received word on from grants for the last year, again, grouped by PSRC, TIB, and WSDOT. And I'll touch on each of these briefly. So the first category, which we haven't brought to council for an award yet, but we have received word, and this will come back to council in the next month or so for the actual award acceptance, but we do know that we've received 4 awards from PSRC for this last year's grant cycle. And you would have seen these about this time last year, when we were looking forward to the upcoming year's worth of applications. So the first is Meet Me on Meeker, and this is for the section of the Meet Me on Meeker project from Interurban to 6th Avenue South. So that's for a two-way cycle track or two-way bicycle lanes, a separated sidewalk and amenity zone. Between the Interurban Trail crossing to 6th Avenue South. You can see an excerpt on the upper left of the intersection with 6th Avenue South. It's going to be it's a slightly offset intersection. So that's what the Meet Me on Meeker design standards overlaid. There'll be curb extensions. That was a regional competition. So again, the City of Kent competed very favorably amongst the 83 jurisdictions throughout the 4-county region for that award. The second project, and the next 3 are really county-level awards. So the first is for the Earthworks Park to downtown connection. You can see the shaded area in the left. This will be for a plan and project development, which could include some preliminary design and engagement with the community on how to make the connection from potentially the first project at 6th Avenue all the way over to the Earthworks Park in the intersection of East Titus Street and Smith, or just where it turns into Canyon Drive. And then the final 2 projects that we received awards for, and I should note all of these are projects in the Transportation Master Plan, or now the Comprehensive Plan. And then the final 2 projects are for street preservation projects. So these would be full-width roadway repaving projects, grind and overlay, replace failed paving sections, including evaluating the sidewalks for ADA improvements. And so the first one would be South 212th Street Preservation Project. That's between the Green River Bridge and 72nd. It's a pretty long stretch of road. And then the second project is South 196th Street Preservation. And that's from East Valley Highway to West Valley Highway. All of the non-concrete sections of roadway would be repaved by these projects. The funding for all of them are in the 2027 and 2028 range. So while TIB is one of the more upfront funding sources, and we can get those out the door, and you'll see me talking about those momentarily, the PSRC grant funds, those are a little bit more deliberative. They take a little bit more time to bring to bear. The next source of project funds is from WashDOT. And back in December, we presented the award for the SR 99 Pacific Highway Pedestrian Hybrid Beacon between 244th and 246th. So you can see 246th there on the left illustration. So this is there's a bus stop on the left, a bus stop on the right, and this would be a pedestrian hybrid beacon to bridge between the two of those. And it's approximate to the Saltair Vista Park, which is just off the screen to the left.
David, I have a quick question. Sorry.
Absolutely.
Do you have amounts for these?
I was just going to go back and capture the dollar amounts. Thank you for the prompt, Council President. So PSRC, the four awards, the Meet Me on Meeker project is approximately a $2.5 million award. The overall project cost is $3.5 million. And again, we'll go into detail for these for the award acceptance when we bring them back for acceptance, but I'm happy to thank you for the prompt. First one is $2.5 million for Meet Me on Meeker, Interurban to 6th Avenue South. Earthworks Park to Downtown Connection is $375,000 because it's a plan, preliminary engineering, and engagement process. And then the two preservation projects, we received the maximum award for those at $1.5 million each. The overall projects are more expensive, and I'll be able to detail that. But to be able to get the maximum award from PSRC is still pretty exciting for us. And to get both awards in one grant cycle, I don't think that's happened for us before. So we're very excited for those. Well, we're excited for all of our grants, but we're excited about getting both of those in the same grant cycle. The WashDOT project was $1.16 million. Grant was accepted by council in December. And that was submitted under the WashDOT Highway Safety Improvement Program funding source. And last, but really the TIB should kind of go first because of the prominence with which we are able to partnership with them. So we were just earlier this evening, we presented and council accepted the second two grants for 83rd Avenue sidewalk and the 132nd Avenue southeast sidewalk. That's north of 278. So we've got the images on the left. But it's hard to believe, it's a little bit hard for me to remember it sometimes. Earlier on in the year, council also accepted a grant for 132nd Avenue Southeast multi-use path, which is for the section of 132nd Avenue Southeast north of Southeast to 40th. We accepted that grant. We applied for the grant in February. We accepted it, council accepted it in April. We went to construction and delivered the project all within the same year. I don't know how many times that's happened, but it's pretty rare. So definitely want to give a shout out to the Public Works staff for being able to design and implement that project within the same year. And of course, our appreciation to TIB for being able to make that happen. So the first project was a $500,000 grant. The second one from this evening was $625,000, and the third was for $490,000. So a little bit different this year. We've got a summary slide of all 8 of the projects, including a grand total. So the grand total for grants from 2024 so far, so I've got a little plus sign there, because these are the grants that we know about, and we do anticipate another pair of grant awards being awarded within the next few months. Hopefully we'll be bringing that back this summer. The grand total is $8.6 million. And again, the top 4 are PSRC grants, and we'll be bringing those back for the formal grant acceptance process with council within the next month or so. So the next steps, this is a summary slide to show that we're always in a continuous process of planning, project development, grants application, and then project delivery. So the stack on the left shows where we get our projects from, which is the Transportation Master Plan, which was adopted in 2021, but it's really also the comprehensive plan. It was the same list of projects with 1 or 2 additions to it. We draw from those project lists for a major, to advance them into the Transportation Improvement Program, which is what we'll be talking about next. And to be eligible for the larger grants, a project needs to be already advanced to the TIP. And so then we draw from those for our major grant applications to craft the applications and apply for them. So the next section of the presentation, we'll be talking about the TIP update, and the schedule, metrics, and the programmed the projects, the potential projects that we see so far. So here we are, schedule, key measures, and potential 2025 grants. I may have mentioned this before. We update the TIP each year because it's required by the state. That way we're constantly in alignment with all of the requirements, but it also presents us the opportunity to go after the grants so that we're in alignment with the grants that are going to come out. It's a bit of an ongoing process, but one that serves us well with opportunity. And the cycle that you see on the screen is the update schedule that we follow each year. So we start in January with briefings and project nominations. We talk to our partners. We draw from the lists of prior years, the TIP projects, TMP projects to add to the TIP, grants that we've received from the prior year if they weren't in the TIP. And then we compile all that together and we update the materials and the recommendations to be added to the TIP in February. That's when we're updating the online project viewer and pulling our material together for outreach and engagement. We brief our boards and commissions, come back to council just before we release the engagement material in March, give you all the heads up. Go out for the month of March, roughly, to get engagement and feedback on the proposed additions to the TIP. Revise the document as necessary in April to bring the draft back to Committee of the Whole in April, and hopefully adoption in May before sending the adopted document back off to the Washington Department of Transportation so that we can be in compliance. They can then roll our TIP up into the state's STIP, and then we start the process all over again the next year. So now we shift gears for just a minute to be reflective and ask, how are we doing? So this is a summary. It's not all of the performance metrics, but it's a summary of select performance metrics. We report out on these each year with the published TIP. And these are the metrics that we selected at the time that we created the Transportation Master Plan to measure how we're doing. So the select slides here, or the select metrics, have to do with mode share and funding. These are the ones that we highlight for the presentation at this time of year because it then influences potentially what projects we add into the TIP and also which grants we're going after. So we're trying to put our resources where we're measuring and vice versa so that it's informing the process. The top metric is really a summary metric, which is the percent of commute trips taken other than by single occupant vehicle. So there's a lot of metrics that are reported out by the census that we draw from, and we do rely on the census for pulling this data. because it would be very, very, very costly and time-consuming for us to do it separately. But it's also the practice of most jurisdictions that aren't the largest jurisdictions in the state to pull from the census. So as you can see, the overall takeaway is continued progress towards resilience. That top metric shows an increase of 31% to 35% roughly, and those are all modes other than single occupancy vehicle. And that takes out some of the noise that you can sometimes see when you look at individual metrics. I do want to highlight the third metric, which is percent of trips taken by transit. So this is showing an increase from 3.7 to 4%. This time last year, we were showing a pretty big drop over those 2 years. So previously, that would have been around 6% for the city of Kent. So you can see that swinging back and forth, but the roll-up for all of those metrics still has sort of a continuous linear creeping up. So it's a good story. And then the reporting out on the funding metrics of each year. This is the slide that I really wanted to come in just before and edit, because it says met the target. It really should say exceeds the target, because each year we exceed the target when we're doing well. So the number of state appropriation awards, grants or state appropriation awards did exceed the target of 3. We set that goal back in 2020. We exceeded the target of $4.5 million in total grants. So remember that last slide where I was saying $8.6 million. We set the goal for 4.5 on an average year. And then the average award amount does exceed $500,000. We want to be judicious and selective of the grants that we go after, since they do take a significant amount of staff time and the opportunity of doing something else with that time. We want to be efficient. And the last metric, the average tip collected annually, we did not meet our target of $3.2 million, but we came really close. We had $2.8 million. So maybe not. We don't get an A, but maybe something like a B. So having reflected, then we want to talk a little bit. We want to project a little bit more on the grants that we could potentially apply for that we see coming up. There are really 2 grant opportunities that we see. There are 3, but the 2 that we see in the first half of the year are with PSRC and US DOT. We'll come back and talk later in the year about TIB. We typically talk about that in the summertime, but I wanted to be upfront that these are the ones that we're focused on the first half of the year. And you can see the QR code in the upper right-hand corner. That links back to the TIP viewer. So those are current TIP projects. So that link is ever current. We can anybody who wants to can go back and take a look at what the projects are. There's an interactive map at the end. And then when we go out for the TIP update, when we bring the projects back for recommended additions to the TIP, we'll be using the same link. So now I'll go over each of the funding sources in turn. So the first is PSRC. They have a transportation alternatives program this year. It's a regional competition, so we'll be competing against all the 83 jurisdictions, counties, and transit agencies. That tends to focus on non-auto projects. So the projects that you see that I'll go over are drawn from that category of project type. The first and the second project, we applied for WashDOT funds, or through the Washington State Department of Transportation pedestrian and bicycle program last year. We were not awarded, and so we're going to be efficient and take another crack at it from a different funding source. And then, so the first is for Willis Street. It's connecting the sidewalk between roughly the Naden property and the access at 74th over to Washington Avenue or State Route 181. So there's sidewalks at both ends of that, but there's a walking path, but not currently a separated sidewalk underneath 167. So that's a project from the Transportation Master Plan that would fit into this category. Second one is Meeker Street west of the Green River, connecting over to SR 516, and then the Russell Road project, which is wrapping up. So there's a walking path on the north side, and we'd like there's a project to turn that into a two-way multi-use path or a shared use path on the north side of the road to complete that connection, which would allow you to get all the way from West Hill downtown on the Meet Me on Meeker project that would make it an improvement. And then the third project is another one from the Transportation Master Plan, which is 4th Avenue North at Harrison Street Enhanced Crossing. So there's an intersection the intersection currently does not have stop controls or doesn't have four-way stop controls. So this would be an improvement with a RRFB crossing for east-west with a median island and a pedestrian refuge in the middle, potentially. So some of the thinking behind the choosing of these projects is we keep coming back to why we think this would be a good project for WashDOT for PSRC is we get points for them for the engagement that we've done, for it being in the Transportation Master Plan, for it connecting between two segments of sidewalk and closing the gaps. Safety. These are projects that I can talk more about when we come back in February, but they're both on what we've identified as the city's high injury network, where there are more crashes on these segments of roads than not. And also, they're all projects that the city already has right-of-way for, so they're easier to implement. And we get points for all of those things from PSRC, where we maybe don't get points from WashDOT. The second main category of grants this year is going to be a revisiting for the Safe Streets and Roads for All funding source from the U.S. Department of Transportation. So I'm taking a shortcut here by showing citywide. The answer is we don't know which projects we're going to apply for yet. We want to come back and have some of that conversation with council on the 4th when we present the draft plan for releasing to the public comment period. So we've done a lot of work with the Transportation Advisory Group. We've done 15 public engagement events out with the public, going out to where folks are. So we want to give more attention, its own section of that to council for consideration, and before we identify which projects we might potentially go for. And so then the last slide again is as emphasis as we're thinking about the grant application process, what the city has found success with in the past, what we find success with each year. Are these emphasis areas from the Transportation Master Plan, from the ongoing conversations, the comprehensive plan, the goals of the comprehensive plan, emphasis on safety, equity, making connections, a lot of funding opportunities out there for active transportation projects. Infrastructure preservation is constantly in our mind. Any projects that increase resilience, projects that are within the existing right-of-way or that we already have access to the land to bring them to bear. And of course, always that emphasis, that last bullet on partnerships that we rely on for both developing projects and delivering the projects. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for David? Councilmember Fincher, please.
Not a question, just a comment. The work that you guys do with these grants is just simply amazing, the amount of work we get done. And these aren't the only projects. Public Works, I already think are rock stars anyway. But it takes time to write these, it takes time to research these, to have the information ready so when they're looking for shovel-ready grants, just all the work that goes into this. Very much appreciated. Well done.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments or questions? No? Now I want to echo what Councilmember Fincher said. I think potentially we all agree, maybe, that Public Works has done an amazing job. So kudos to all of you. Congratulations, David, for doing an amazing job bringing funding back to our community and getting some very important projects done. 132nd looks amazing. And I've seen many other changes around the city, and I actually hear from neighbors that, they're very happy that we're actually doing some work in the city. So thank you so much. I appreciate all that you do.
I'll pass that along to our colleagues in Public Works, design, the designers, the engineers, and of course our management staff who's standing right behind me. But thank you on our behalf.
Thank you. And I think if there's no other discussion, we are adjourned. See y'all at 7 for council meeting. Thank you.